altogether. It just completely changed. Because you don't worry about anything else.
No, you don't see nobody, do you?
No,
I think when you're in love it, you just cut everybody else out. You just think what you're doing, and you do your best. You feel like a princess.
Well, you could sit in the balcony and anything, as soon as the music's off, we're off.
A lot of Blackpool's like a film set, because everything's larger than life, and everything is made lurid or enlarged, or it's miniaturized, and everything that can be is transformed into a toy or a novelty or a fancy good, as they say. Everything's fantasy. It's a town out of its time, and I think that's a great part of its charm.
I think one of the things about Blackpool is it's never put on any airs and graces. It's always said what it was and always been what it was, and that's a place to come for just damn good fun. And in a funny way, no one's too humble to go to Blackpool, and no one's too sophisticated to come to Blackpool. They just come, but it's about the only place in England where you can go start raving bonkers, really, I suppose.
How does one provide for people who want to go start raving bonkers?
Well, I think you've got to be a bit mad yourself. It certainly helps, and I think that's the case with our family, probably. Well, I think we lead very sheltered, innocent sort of lives these days. I mean, for the young boys, there's no national service. They sit at home, watch television, they go to the pub. They don't really have a lot of excitement in their lives. A lot of people have very mundane lives. You can come to Blackpool, try going on the new big one, roller coaster. That's probably the biggest excitement most people will have ever had in their entire existence.
I love the Pleasure Beach, yeah. I mean, it was the place I went the most. I mean, I lived, you know, only a 5-minute walk from the Pleasure Beach, and it was a great kind of backyard to have, you know. I mean, I kind of grew up with this whole sense of unreality. The river caves were always kind of looked down upon as one of the rides in the pleasure beach because, you know, obviously it wasn't a scary ride, but it was the nearest thing the pleasure beach had to a tunnel of love, but it was kind of a trip around the world in like 4 minutes. And I find it very peculiar looking at it again now because I've actually been to quite a few places that are part of that exhibition, I mean, which I thought was so magical when I was a kid. Now I've actually been to those places and I see how kind of cheap and gimcrack the whole place is, but I love that.
In Blackpool's dream world, there's always a hint of things monstrous and exotic. The Tars Adventure Playground, Jungle Gyms, has been set up on the site of the former Victorian roof gardens. Karim Baksh grew up in Blackpool. His father ran an Indian village right here in the 1930s.
There was a large stage at this end where they did juggling, Indian dancing, magic. My father, who ran it all, was known as a Royal Cader, and his was very famous sleight of hand. My father always wore Asian dress. Well, he wore a turban, and the turban had a huge spray there. He was a big fella, 6 foot, and he always insisted on walking around in his Indian dress all the way around Blackpool. In this area here, there was a large snake pit. It wasn't a sort of wriggling mass of snakes, it was snakes in various cases. And it was, you walked up to this snake pit and looked down and somebody demonstrated the various snakes. Pythons, cobras, and various snakes like that. And they also showed you how to milk the poison out of a snake. You used to open the snake's mouth and press just behind the teeth, and the snake's poison used to come out.
Perhaps because the snakes were in the habit of escaping, the Indian village was short-lived, and after 2 years, the roof gardens reverted to their earlier role as a venue for the display of midgets.
Too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love, love's going to leave me on the string.
Quest for the unusual, the strange, and the incredible have been highlighted at exhibits just like the one you're in since the early 1930s. One of the many reasons for the popularity of Ripley's collections, which has sustained over these many years, is its focus on unusual people, not just in faraway places, but right here at home. Quiet, shy, sensitive to his size, Robert Wadlow was hesitant about appearing in public. This film was made to promote the company that manufactured his shoes, size 37 AA.
Unusual disciplines, each one an oddity, each a once-in-a-lifetime experience, all authentic and rare. Believe it or not.
Ripley's, believe it or not, was a kind of freak show museum, which I used to go to all the time. At least once a week. I had a perverse fascination with it. And I found very macabre and moving when I was a kid, I suppose. But now looking back and romanticising it, but I do feel it's got some kind of influence on the way I think now. And in some way it sort of influences my acting in terms of the way my mind works.
Is one thing. Getting them out is something else. Ouch! If you find this exhibition hard to swallow, meet Dagmar Rockman, the man who can swallow anything. Watch this. A mouse is right for size, but surely no one could overcome the natural revulsion of putting a live mouse in their mouth.
Oh me, oh my, I hope the little lady comes by. There's no other girl I could wait for. This one I'd break any date for. I won't have to ask why she's late for. She wouldn't leave me, but she's not a girl like that. She's absolutely wonderful and beautiful and marvellous, and anyone can understand why. I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street, in case a certain little lady comes by.
Step this way for the famous Waxworks. You've heard about it, you've read about it, now step inside and see it. This is Louis de Sole. Any more for the famous Waxworks. You've heard about it, you've read about it. Step this way for the famous Waxworks. Step inside and see all your stars face to face. Pop stars, stage stars, sports stars, all at Louis de Sole. Any more for the famous Waxworks. Any more for the famous Waxworks. Step this way. This is Louis de Sole. Any more. Blackpool's #1 exhibition.
I think people come in because it's a way of getting close to a famous person that they particularly like, maybe a pop star or the royal family or, dare I say, a politician. But it's a way of getting up close to them without being rude or intrusive and looking to see what they really look like. And in fact, I mean, a waxworks is a work of art. I mean, it's like looking at a painting, isn't it?
I don't even remember much about the main exhibits. And what I was particularly attracted to was a section called the anatomical section, which you weren't allowed to go in unless you were, I think you had to be 18. But obviously we used to sneak in.
The birth of a baby in there is very realistically and truly done. And I think that young women come along with their daughters and can explain to them visually with a visual aid rather than telling them. It's very educational, it's very interesting. True to life, I mean, you can't get better than that.
People do want to see those images. They do want to see ugliness. They do want to see something that scares them to hell. And well, I certainly did. I still like seeing that sort of stuff. And I'm still kind of perverse and kinky about old medical instruments and anything clinical.
From $1.99 and kids eating from 99p. There's a lot more in the Brunswick Shopping Arcade, so have a good look round.
The sea here is never blue. It's never been blue as long as I've known it. It's like this dirty dishwater colour. And in a way, the town would feel much different if the sea was blue. You know, like in the Mediterranean or something, it would kind of, for a start, literally reflect onto the town itself.
Okay, hold tight, here we go.
It's only since I've come back here, since living in London for 13 years or whatever, that I kind of appreciate how strange it is, you know. And anyone who's never been should come here because it is kind of a very peculiar place.
Do you have much sense of reality yourself?
Not at all. Not at all. As I say, I kind of grew up in early childhood in a toy shop. I came from this town, which has no sense of reality. I moved to London, which isn't exactly a real city, and became an actor. And I don't have sense of reality at all. And recently I've kind of been going back and forth to Los Angeles, which is